Joe, thank you for interviewing with us. I think I met you at the annual convention of New York Korean War Veteran Department at Saratoga Springs this May, right?
That's correct, sir.
What
Yeah.
were you doing there?
I was I'm the treasurer for the Department of New York, and we were in charge of the 50/50 money,
Ah,
and also the hospitality room. Myself and the president, Sal, made sure that it ran properly, and all the monies were accounted for, and we did pretty well on it this year. So
good to see you again.
I'm glad to see you.
Yeah, it's the Museum of Self.
I know.
Yeah.
It's a little much, but not many people have it, you know.
I've never seen anything like
to
this.
this extent.
Yeah.
No.
Why do you think it's a good idea to have a website like a Korean War Veteran Digital Memorial?
Well, because it is it was once a forgotten war, and it still is a forgotten war with the young Koreans and also the Americans. There's not many people that know too much about it, and most veterans don't talk about it.
Why not?
We don't share with our families, or I don't speak to other veterans. I keep it inside.
Why do you keep inside and you don't talk about it?
Maybe it's part of the post-traumatic stress syndrome, that you alienate yourself from your family, and talking about anything. You remember it, but you don't want to orally say it. All the situations that you went through during the war. And, others don't appreciate it as we do. And whether it's your makeup, I just don't like to speak about it.
So why do you think that the Korean War Veteran Digital Memorial will...
Oh, I think it'll be, it's time for us to come out of the closet and let people know just what it was like over there, and what we saw and what the country has become today, the friendship between the Korean and the American people. Most people don't realize America, well, the American GIs and Koreans have such a bond that no other country in any of our wars have ever reciprocated to any extent as much as Korea.
That's an excellent point. Excellent point.
It's really we don't have much in the libraries, and it's not much taught at school. Yeah, we have our Tell America
program,
but whether they really get anything about it, who knows? But it's a start, and it should be done more than it is. But it's hard to get into schools unless you have a willing participant in the teachers' side of it. But anyway, it's good that it's being done. Maybe someday somebody will
have a chance to look
have
at
a chance to look at it, and
yeah.
I have 5 grandsons, and I think maybe only one has any interest at all. As a matter of fact, he wrote an essay for the Korean Health thing. He wrote an essay in, and we'll wait to hear sometime this month, I guess. He's a winner, but he's an assistant district attorney out here with Dr. O. His daughter and his son-in-law is a district attorney here in Suffolk County. And my grandson works with them.
Good.
So,
Would you introduce yourself, your name, when was
Yes.
born, and so on?
yes, my name is Joseph John Horton. I was born in Brooklyn, New York, Kings County. And on September 23rd, 1931. And
You're born.
yes,
Yeah.
we lived in the Brooklyn section most of my teenage life in tenements. We never owned a home. We had 6 children, and my mother was of Irish descent that immigrated. My grandfather immigrated from Ireland, and we were living in the Cypress Hills area of Brooklyn when I was drafted in 1952, January of '52. I was working at a firm in New York City, a brokerage firm under the name of White Weldon Company, which after I returned from service, I went back to them, and we were sold to Merrill Lynch, which is quite well known. Anyway, I was 20 years old when I was drafted in January 18, 1952. I had basic training, and
Were you aware of Korea at the time? Where it is?
no, we had no knowledge of. We knew it was going on from seeing pictures and newspaper articles, but we had no idea where Korea was or what was going on. Our involvement in. We were too busy playing basketball or baseball and being a teenager.
What was your first reaction, honest feeling that you were drafted to fight in the country where you were never heard about before?
Well, we really didn't have any knowledge of what was ahead of us. We knew we were going through basic training, which is a format of military service, but we had no idea that we would be going to Korea. You had a chance of maybe going to Germany or staying in the States or going to Korea. No one knew their destiny. I was in Arkansas, and then I went to California. And in July of 1952, I had been going with my wife, who was...
Oh, you were married at the time?
We were going steady for about 2 years. I had met her in 1949, and I proposed to my wife from California on the phone. And,
Before you left for Korea?
Before I left for Korea. We were married on July 26th, 1952.
She accepted it,
Yes.
knowing that you are leaving for Korea?
Well, we had no idea I was going to Korea at that point.
Oh, you didn't know?
No, I had no idea. We had a church service and a small reception. I returned to California, and I was there maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and I got my orders to ship out for Korea. So I was we were given the leave, and then we had to report back to I forget where Camp Stoneman in Washington, I guess it was. And we stayed there for about 5 or 10 days until all the people came in, and we sailed for Korea on, I think it was September 20th, 1952.
What was like being in that ship? How did they treat you? What was the atmosphere among your people going into the battleground?
Well, we headed for Japan, I guess Camp Drake. While on board, we were there, I think, about we sailed on September 20th, 1952, and arrived in Japan, I think, on October 5th. The condition on the ship were god-awful. I think, I don't really know how many men were on the ship, or boys, but I think 99% of them were sick, seasick. And the stench was unbearable. It was all over the ship. The first night, I was in my bunk, and about 4 o'clock, the cooks came around recruiting dishwashers and food handlers, and we worked all day. We scrubbing pots and washing floors, and that was the last time they caught me in my bunk. I was up on deck. I never had KP again. The one day was enough. Anyway, and we got to Korea about October 5th, and
where did you land?
We were in Camp Drake, I believe, in Japan, and then I think we got to Korea on October 10th, Incheon. We landed.
And you were Army, right?
Army, U.S.
What was
Army.
your specialty?
45th Infantry Division, 279th Regiment, Company A. They had just come back off of the line in Chowan Valley, and they were getting new equipment and getting rest. We went back up on the line on November 24th, up in what they call the Punch Bowl.
I mean east side?
On the East Coast, yes. It was 2 very large mountainous hills, Hill 854 and Hill 1012, which was Luke's Castle. They were the 2 sticking points in the truce negotiations. The North Koreans or the Chinese wanted this included because we were in North Korea up in the East Coast, and they were very bitter about wanting that territory, and the United States wouldn't give, or the South Korean government wouldn't give. So we got up on the line with we relieved the 8th Rock Division on the night of November 24th. Before the night was over, we sustained an attack of maybe, they say 2 battalions of North Koreans. They announced, "Welcome, 45th Division." They knew exactly who we were. And before the night is over, they alerted the 8th Rock Division to get ready to come back up on the hills to reinforce us in case they got into the trenches. We didn't need them. We held was quite an awakening. We move up in the darkness and you don't know where anything is, and it's quite scary. That passed, and November 5th was my first really combat duty. The daylight patrol of 4 men were down in the valley. At this time we had the snow parkas, snowsuits on, jackets with hoods and gloves, the whole bit white to blend in with the snow. The 4-man patrol got caught, and one of the fellows got away. He destroyed the radio, and he got up to the main line of resistance, and he alerted Able Company. And by this time, many hours had passed. 12 o'clock we started to move down to rescue them. Of 1st Squad of the Able Company and 2nd Squad of the 3rd Platoon went down. When I got down there, I found one GI shot through the neck. I took one step and he went down. Another fella by the name of Walker off to the side. He had, I don't know, 2 or 3 slugs in the stomach. Another one was shot in the leg. Both of them were still alive. We had one killed in action. And our job, the 1st Squad went after the ambushes. They got 2 of them, 2 out of the 6. And our job was to extricate the wounded and the dead up the mountain. Well, from 1 o'clock, the last man went in, crossed into our lines at 7:35 at night. It took us all day to go up with the stretches. And that was, I still remember it as it was yesterday. And,
you have such a memory.
The one fellow that was shot was the name of Harold Schaefer. They used to call him Lucky.
Mm.
And after I came home, I remember the incident, and I remember the exact position they were in, but I couldn't remember their names. And in 1995, we went down for the dedication of the Korean monuments in Washington. And I met somebody down there from Baker Company that he was telling us that he had lost a good friend on December 5th by the name of Lucky Schaefer, and it all came back. I remembered his name. I remember the other kid's name was Walker, and it's still fresh as it was yesterday.
Mm.
And then we continued. We went out on patrols and reconnaissance to find out where they were, to see if we could make contact with them. And on December 24th, which is Christmas Eve, the North Koreans started shelling us, and we went into a bunker. I came in, and it was a bunk made with camo wire. I sat on there, and a good friend of mine who went to school with my brother-in-law up in Waterbury, Connecticut, come in, and he sat down on a box next to me. I told him, come up here. He sat there, and we had a young Korean boy, a Katusha, in my squad, 2nd Squad, and he was repairing his air mattress, and he was standing in the doorway so he could get light to see where the holes were. And wouldn't you know it, we got a direct hit. the fella next to me had over 50 pieces of shrapnel in his legs. The young Korean boy who was torn to pieces, I think he probably saved our lives. And there was the one Korean boy killed in action, and there was 4 of us wounded. And I went back in the ambulance with my buddy from my squad from Waterbury, Connecticut, and when I got there, I wasn't wounded that seriously enough to be evacuated. They gave me a couple of shots, and I returned to our lines, and after a couple of days, I received a piece of shrapnel in the left eye, and
I'm sorry, what?
in the left eye, there's a piece of shrapnel.
Oh.
It came in through the eyelid, and it wasn't serious enough. It scratched the cornea, and it's embedded it under the eye.
Wow.
But the whole eyelid was split open where it went in. And the eye closed, and it was almost like a black eye. And I also had some shrapnel in the back, which was just pieces. There was no, we just went back to work because there were so many people from our squad that were wounded. And after that, we had some rest and recuperation. And at the end of January, they returned us back up front to Heartbreak Ridge. And we stayed there for about 28 days. The first hill we were on, we were up at 36 days without a shower. We had one change of clothes, but when it was my turn to go down and take a shower, the machine was broke, so we never got to take a shower. We changed our clothes, our underwear, and went back up. And Heartbreak Ridge was very testy. The mortars came in every lunchtime because the GIs are known to take off their jackets and cross around the top of the hill with the white T-shirts and the silver mess kits. So every lunchtime, they would start pouring in the mortars, and we learned that every 15 seconds, you get up and run a little further up until you get back into your bunker. And
it's horrible.
I got through that, and then in I think it was May of '53, our division was ordered to Chejudo under what they call KCOMZ. It's the we were guards at a prisoner of war camp, the Chinese prisoner of war camp. I know today it's a luxury resort, but back then in 1953 it was a prisoner of war camp. We stayed there until, I guess about 73 days. We were either at a guard at the double barbed wire fence with no weapons, just guard and standing stationary guard at that, or up in the machine gun tower. I had my first acclimation to May Day when the Chinese celebrated. They let them build a boat, and they let them take it down to the ocean and sail it for a while. But every other couple of days they would have a bucket brigade with half of a 55-gallon drum, and they carried the waste down to the down by the ocean. And after that, June 20th was the exact date. They moved us up to I forget where it was now. I forget the name of the right off the bat, but we stayed there for about 10 days.
Around where?
In the East Coast.
East Coast.
It was. They moved us to a place they call Christmas Hill, and we were there until the end of the ceasefire. We moved off the line on July 29th, I believe, but on July 7th and 8th, Charlie Company was on the finger. Able Company was up on the top, up to the mountain in the trenches. Charlie Company had an outpost, and the Chinese mortared it. They killed 2 Koreans, South Koreans, and there was 1 American still left. And every time they went out to get the men, they would pour in the artillery and the mortars, and they wouldn't let them go out and get the bodies. On the night of the July 8th, 2 battalions of Chinese attacked. By this time, the Charlie Company was down to 53 men out of 200. And the Chinese got into the trenches, and we were directly in where the entrance was to go down into the finger. Our job was to go down and clear out the Chinese out of the trenches. We went down, and made sure the Chinese were either dead or out of the trenches. And at this point, I was an assistant squad leader on a machine gun position. I had a .45, and I also had a small handgun, a .32 Belgian automatic. And the one that I shot happened to be in the face.
Oh, Chinese soldier.
A Chinese soldier. He fell back down the hill. He was standing up. I guess he was trying to get away, and I think it was maybe a week and a half later, we went out looking for them, and 2 of the Katusas came up and said they saw a body down there. We went back down to get it. At this time, Able Company relieved Charlie Company. We were down now on the finger. They wouldn't go near him, so the Americans had to go down and help them. At this time, his face was gone, and it was nothing but maggots, and they were deadly afraid. So I broke off some branches and I put it over his face, and they took the handles on the stretcher to bring him up, and then the war ended. Well, I spent my first anniversary the day before the armistice, and it seemed like the Chinese just were trying to unload all their ammunition, because they pounded us relentlessly. I always remember that. I was just looking up for the kitchen sink to come. luckily, I managed to get out and get home.
When did you depart Korea?
I left Korea about October, I guess October 18th, somewhere around there.
53.
That's 1953.
Could you describe the day that armistice was declared? What was the feeling? How did you react to it?
It was funny.
Where were you?
Because I was up on the front lines, up on the Christmas Hill, the finger of Christmas Hill. And it was very still, very quiet. And we had I think he was from Puerto Rico. And he heard noises that evening on the 27th. And he wanted to throw hand grenades, you know, and no, you don't do that. But he was, I think, a little afraid that the armistice wasn't real, that, you know, Chinese were coming at us. You know, it really didn't sink in that it was really, really finally over. He was still
they
on
couldn't
alert.
believe it.
Yeah, yes, he was still on alert. Oh. But then I rotated home and.
No. What was your reaction? How did you feel about it? The armistice?
Oh, I was very relieved that, you know, I was finally, you know, wouldn't have to.
What did you do on the moment that was declared?
Gee, I don't really remember. I guess I was very thankful that the shooting war had stopped. You know, this way I know I'm going to go home alive. It was every day they used to say, well, today I didn't have any bullet or any bomb with my name on it, because you would have guys up there one day, and next day they'd be gone. I guess it was just the luck of the draw that whoever came home survived. Was lucky. It was quite humbling, believe me. And I used to tell myself, I just, being I was married, I said, geez, if we ever have any children, I know he's not going to have to do this. But I know now that was false, being we went into Vietnam and all the other wars that are going on now.
You were in the trench war, right?
I was in the trench.
So that there should be a case where that the Chinese were approaching to you and you had to defend them, right?
Yes.
How close? In the closest sort of cases?
Oh, like where you're sitting?
Yeah. You were looking at Chinese soldiers?
Yes.
Around a 2 meter distance?
In normal positions, no. When they attacked us,
right.
It was very close.
Very close.
Very close.
What did you think?
But I guess then the adrenaline started kicking up from all the previously shellings and all the dealings. You were scared, but you went ahead and do it. Like when we had to go down to clear out the trenches, my knees were just shaking. All I had was a 45. I didn't want to go down with just a pistol. That night, our lieutenant was a young lad, I guess, from West Point, second lieutenant. Our machine gun position was here, and there was a bunker here with just a burlap bag. You could hear crying going on, and he was the only one in there. Our platoon sergeant went in, and I heard him smack him, and the crying stopped. And we went down, and we spent the whole night there. And the next morning we came back up, he was gone. After I came back, we didn't have the information from our own country as to what they term now PTSD, is post-traumatic stress disorder. It was battle fatigue, or they had different terms for different wars, and we just shell-shocked from all the dealings with the either mortars or artillery shelling. It gets to you after a while, and not known to us, we dealt with different anxieties in life, problems with alienation from your family, drinking, marital spouts. My wife left me about 3 times with the children because of drinking, and it was not until 1998 that I started going to the VA.
Oh.
From 1953. I didn't have a car. I didn't even know where the VA was. But now it's well publicized to all the returned in Iraq or Afghanistan veterans that they have post-traumatic stress. It almost cost me my marriage and my family.
You survived it.
I survived it.
Good.
And I'm getting a disability for 50% from the VA for post-traumatic stress. At times you have, you might be just watching a picture. It doesn't have to be a war picture, and something will trigger, and you'll start crying like a baby.
You woke up in the middle of the night.
Middle of the night, a lot of people talk about having dreams, nightmares. I never had a nightmare or a dream. In the middle of the night, I would wake up and I would sit up out of bed, not knowing what it was. It just, like you'd be laying prone and all of a sudden you'd sit up and not thinking of anything, but it would be instant reaction to something. I don't get them as often as I do. They give you medication to try to solve it. And to this day, as a matter of fact, I have a 1:30 appointment with the VA today with my wife for counseling. So I'm still in treatment. It's everybody has their way to handle it, and I'm just July 26th of this, a week away. Next Thursday will be our 60th wedding anniversary. So we managed to stick it out and work things.
Wonderful wife you have.
Yeah. And when I first started going to the counseling, it must be about 3 years ago, and she started discussing with the counselor how many times she left me with the children. I had forgotten, or I wasn't aware of it. And did I do that? It was, you know, you needed the liquor to pump you up or forget or something. That's, I guess, part of all the problems that we carried back with us from the war.
What did you do after you returned to home? Did you get a job?
Yes, I had a job because I was working for a small brokerage firm when I left. And I had started in, I think, December of 1949, so I had a year or two in with them. And my job was waiting for me, you know, in the same department that I had left. And it took me a while to come around. I went back to work in January. I was like lost. I didn't know where to go. And I'd like to share this story with you. One of the fellows that were with me on that December 5th encounter that we extricated the men, the fellow that received 50 shrapnel wounds in his leg. But he was married on January 1st of 1953. I never saw him again. He went sent to the hospitals and then he returned to the States and so on. And my sister lived in Waterbury, Connecticut. And she kept in contact with his family. And he sent me an invitation to go to the wedding. So me and my wife went up to the wedding. And we walked into the wedding, and we got there very late because it was January 1st. The train schedule was, I didn't have a car. We had to take the trains up. Joe, I'm sorry I bugged out on you. That's when we were carrying the wounded and dead up. Halfway up, him and another fella went back up to the lines. It was extremely cold and very tiresome. He went back up. He said, Joe, I can't take it anymore. I said, go back up, you know, rest. I stayed there until we got back up, but I guess he had a guilty conscience that he left me. And I remember him in the ambulance calling Mary, Mary. He was in such pain. And Mary was the girl he married. So I said, you must be Mary. She said, yes. And, but I never forget that he wouldn't talk to me because he felt that he bugged out on me. And I never felt that way. You know, I knew he was tired and cold, and I guess some things stay on your mind that you think you've done wrong, and you really didn't. But I've made contact with his son up in Waterbury, Connecticut, through the computer, and he wanted to know about how his father was wounded. I said, well, I was sitting right next to him, and I can tell you exactly what happened to him. But we've, to this day, never gotten together. One of these days, but...
You have such unbearable experiences, and it has haunted you even after you come back.
It was they never trained us to deal with the cold. We had good clothing and good boots, the rubber Mickey Mouse boots, and they did check our feet by the medical officers. They kept after that, but it was hard living in. We used to go into the what they used to call bunkers, or hoochers they used to call them, and get inside your sleep, which was the wrong thing to do, because if any enemy got into the trenches, they could best or stick you with a bayonet. You could feel the rats running over you.
Oh.
And one incident, when the war ended, when the ceasefire ended, we had a bunker, and two of the Korean boys, Katusas, we knocked the bunker in, and the rodent went out, and one of them picked up a rock and went after him and got him. And that's I guess that bothered them too.
Have you been back to Korea?
Yes, I have been back twice, in 1998 and I think 2000.
What do you feel?
Oh, it was breathtaking. I couldn't believe it. Could not believe it. When we left, there was, in Seoul, there was a military PX and some stores, a lot of people, but nothing really, you know, like it is today. I mean, condos, it was just absolutely a fantastic credit to the Korean government, the Korean people, to turn themselves around.
We couldn't do it without your...
I realize that, but you know, I mean, we had, when we were there, maybe 1 or 2 bridges, and now there's 6 bridges. You know, it was neon lights almost all night. I mean, we were by almost Olympic Park. In Olympic Park, there's a thumb sticking up. We stayed in the church building. They used to call it the Glass Tower or the Glass Building. And Reverend Kim. But I mean, the highways were 6-car lane. I mean, just, gee, you know, I was part of this.
Did that help you some?
Yeah.
I mean, to get out of that trauma?
I guess for a bit, but you're not thinking about anything other than the development of the country. You know, it's just awe-inspiring to take it all in. And but you get a sense of pride that you were there. You know, I mean, like we had a gentleman by the name of Mr. Park. I don't know, he's from down here, and he took us up to Incheon by subway. I mean, could not get over it, the subway. You know, we got the card and running through the machine, and I mean, up and down levels, and I said, you know, that was the first. Our people were got heavy and couldn't do much, and you know, just take the high ground, take the high ground, and you know, to urge them to go up and down the steps. But so long ago.
I have several questions to ask you.
Sure, sir.
First, Korean War is between North and South, but at the same time, the more I have interviewed with Korean War veterans, the more I realize that it was between U.S. and China.
Mm.
What do you think about that?
Well, the very first frontline duty I had was against. I found this out later, much later. Ours was the 45th Infantry Division. It's a National Guard outfit from Oklahoma. We were facing the 45th North Korean People's Army. That's what a coincidence. 45th against the 45th.
Uh-huh.
And in July, we were against the Chinese.
Were there any banner, 45th?
No. But they knew who we were.
Mm-hmm.
They had the bugles on the loudspeakers. Nobody ever taught us, are they coming? Is that just over the microphone to scare us? Christmas time, they would have playing music. GI, what is your family doing now? What is your sweetheart doing? Trying to get you to not sympathize with South Korea and just leave it there and go home.
Go home.
And of course it didn't work, but we had our black sheep, you might call it, that day on the December 5th, where we went down to retrieve the bodies. We had a black soldier as a medic. They just handled band-aids, bandages. They're not real doctors. On the way down, he was sitting on the side of the hill, on the top of the hill, and he was down on his backside, and he had his foot up. I said, "Smitty, what happened?" He said, "I got shot." I said, "You got shot?" He said, "Yeah, I got shot in the foot." And we were hurrying to get down. Once you start going down a hill, you go down pretty fast, and you have to break yourself by grabbing on trees. Time passed, and we found out he shot himself in the foot with 45, I guess because he didn't want to go down.
So you feel like it was a war between China and U.S.?
Oh, it was, but it was between North Korea. I don't know, it was between North and South, and North and the United States. It was just not the United States with the Chinese, because I feel that way because at one point I was fighting the North Koreans, and the second part I was fighting the Chinese communists. So I know where you're going. It was just between the United States and China, but it wasn't our country. I was fighting for South Korea.
Do you know how by next year it's going to be 6 years anniversary
Yes.
of Korean Armistice?
Yes.
What do you think about that? Do you remember any war that lasted more than 60 years after an official ceasefire in 20th century?
Well, they always say the Vietnam War was the longest, but that's not so. They signed a ceasefire, not a peace agreement. It was technically still at war. And, people don't realize that. And the 3-year span, I think it was the bloodiest war of any of our wars, including Vietnam or Afghanistan. That is no comparison. But yet people don't realize that. They don't want to know.
Would you do sign the petition if there's a petition saying enough is enough and let's do some replacement with the peace treaty, even though there are some matters to be resolved, but from the Korean War veterans.
Well, I'm here. I'm home with my family. I have all the liberties, the freedoms. I know there's still hostilities between North and South Korea. I mean, when it's like us or a war between the states never ended, the North and the South. We've gone through that.
And U.S. and North Korea
to this day, we're still rednecks. I guess there's no middle ground. You know what I mean? They want it their way, you want it their way. There's no middle ground.
Exactly.
Nobody wants to give an inch. It's unfortunate that so many people are affected by it, but maybe in some time in the future, it'll come together.
You are the most legitimate voice, wounded, going through all those traumatic experiences and saying that we know there are problems, but I want to say to you that enough is enough and let's do work on it.
Oh yes.
Did you say that?
Oh yes.
And sign that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Any message to the younger generations about the war in general?
About the Korean War?
Korean War, but at the same time the war that U.S. is involved right now, and general. As a person who went through all those years.
I feel for them. We had one tour. They're having these people, whether it's voluntary or in need of men, they're doing 2, 3, 4 tours over there. And you can't ask a man to press his luck that far. Hopefully it'll all turn out that our troops will come home one day. But I just feel you can't make people do or act like we do here at home. They have a lot of work to do. It's been their religion or their way of life for so many years. They still think of us as enemies, no matter, it's not a thing that if you go in and conquer a country, it's yours. But we didn't. They said, here, this is your country. Try to fix it up. But to the young people, I hope they feel that in any of our wars, we've done good, we've meant good. And if they have to go, that they will do well. We really didn't get going in our organization till much later on. I think it was in the 80s. I think we learned a lot from the Vietnam veterans, from the protest and their determination to get their monument. I think there's a certain brotherhood between the Nam vets and the Korean veterans that we had no parades coming back. You know, you met somebody, one of your buddies, where you been? On vacation? But it's the way it is. How you play your hand is up to you.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a daughter with 4 boys and a son with 1 boy. And it turned out all right. Even though I don't have that much rapport with them, you sort of back off, you don't talk as much. You do the best you can.
Thank you again for having a chance to interview you, and I want to thank you for your sacrifice and service.
It's been my privilege.
Koreans never forget.
I know that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.